Hello everyone, this video is going to be a quick tutorial on how to use our line and wash watercolor brush set for Procreate. And if you don't have the brushes yet, I provided a link in the description below. This brush set will come with 16 brushes. The set also includes 3 different watercolor texture canvases that you can choose from. And to get you started, I have included 16 stamps. These stamps provide a helpful starting point, giving more confidence to the artist to create more complex designs. So we will be working off of those. And when we were creating these brushes, we wanted the set to be simple, fun, and creative. Because whether you're looking to create beautiful artwork within seconds or dive into more intricate designs, these brushes will help you guide through the whole process. So with that in mind, we'll go through the canvas here quickly. And as you can see at the top, the first layer is going to have brush guide. You can turn it on by checking the box, and it's a perfect reference for you to go through when you are using the brushes to figure out what it's used for. And I'll go through the postcard effect at the end of the video. And as you can see, I have the stamps on the top of the paint here layer, but when we do paint, we want to keep it underneath the layers of the sketches, as well as underneath the watercolor texture canvas to get the full effect. And we notice that a lot of people are intimidated with painting or drawing, but I believe that there's an artist in everyone. All it takes is a bit of fun, some imagination, and the right tools. And that is one of the reasons why we included the stamps, because you can simply enjoy the painting process with the layer on, but you could also reduce the opacity and begin drawing yourself with the layer on top to assist you. And we can do this by pressing on the end button here and lowering the opacity to around 5%. So that's what we will do. So we'll create a new layer, and we're going to pick a black ink color. And if you go down, as you can see, the bottom half is where all the inks are. So we'll begin with the fine line pen. The fine line pen is versatile because it delivers consistent line width, making your line work look professional and polished. And as you can see on the top left corner, I preset the stages of percentages for you guys to go off of, but you could always remove and add preset stages here. And you can delete them by clicking on the area and click on the subtract button. You're only limited with 4 stages of presets, so you have to delete one to add another. And you can preset the size of the brush by clicking on the plus symbol. This is perfect for people who want to change sizes of their brushes, but always want to go back to the old brush size. It's already saved for you to go back. And with sketches like this, simple things, we can go with the size around 30%. And we'll zoom in and begin from the top. And as you can see, the fine line pen has consistent width and size and very smooth. So we'll start with the leaf. And there's a lot of different ways you can draw with a line wash style watercolor paint. But what I like to do is I like to be giving some uneven, imperfect, happy mistakes here and there, which gives a lot more expression and a little bit of your own style. So it does take some time to create your own style, but you're more than happy to use my style using the drag, skipping some lines, which gives a lot of personality and expression. And you can even cut the lines and leave out some of the areas for your imagination to fill up. This works really well with washed out watercolor style paint because the water style wash paint is not going to look perfect, so the lines shouldn't be perfect either. You don't have to be perfect and never feel judged. Think of it as writing in your own journal. You don't really show your journal to anybody else, so why be worried about showing your art or doing your art in your style way? And now we'll move on with the tapered pen. The tapered pen allows for dynamic line width, where you can create both thin and thick lines in a single stroke by adjusting the pressure near the end. This gives a bit more organic, hand-drawn feel to your work. I like to put a bit more taper lines inside, adding a bit more detail to my artwork. And now we can focus on the fountain pen. This pen brings classic, elegant touch to your artwork, providing smooth and consistent flow by producing bold lines when you put a bit more pressure, giving some of that sophisticated look. So when you're putting medium pressure, you're going to get smaller lines, but as pressure is put on to the paper or the canvas, it's going to be a bit more thicker. And if you want to be a bit more versatile, putting different areas of the pressure, this is great for that. Also, it's great for lettering because it provides that realistic feel of the fountain pen. Now moving on to the marker, that provides unique bold approach in areas where you want them to be bold, and fine line tip details as well to produce strong, consistent lines. The marker glides smoothly across the surface, giving a very clean look without any rough textured edges. And I'll show you a different style of the lemon using the marker with bolder lines to give a bit more expression. And you can really have fun with this by making things very simple, contour, but yet still elegant in its way. Now looking at the loose pen, which creates more spontaneous, organic, free-flowing ink flow, which allows the artist to be a bit more relaxed, feel the paper or the flow with unpredictable nature of this watercolor washes. It's less rigid, allowing you to experiment with thick and thinner lines, creating an interesting texture look with complementing with softness of the watercolor. And here's a quick demonstration of my corgi that I drew with 3 different styles of drawings. So this corgi on the bottom left is a loose pen style. And the one on the right, it's a bit more monotone with fine details working with tapered pens, fine line pens. And the top corgi is using the marker with fast contour lines. But all of these still look great. And now we'll do some of the fun parts of the painting process. So before we begin, I want to make sure that we are beginning to paint in the paint here layer and beginning to paint upwards from there. And from here, we're going to go from the top and use the smooth wash brush. So we're going to pick a yellow tone color here. And as you can see, the brush provides a uniform, consistent application of color across the large areas. And the best part is if you want a more washed look, you can also reduce the opacity, just like this. Give it more washer, and even lower opacity will give that faint look of wash look. Now moving on with the rough wash brush. This brush provides even, uniform, and consistent application of color, but has a bit more of those textured edges effect, providing irregular edges and mimicking a natural texture compared to the smooth brush. Now moving on to the rough hard edge. This brush set will provide hard edges and transparent center, but the edges of these brushes will provide that natural look of scratchy, uneven textured look here. Just like you can see here from here, they're very uneven and unpredictable edges, just like watercolor style. So before I move on, I'm going to paint this lemon, and if you want to follow along, you can. So we'll begin by picking the smooth wash brush, being the size to 100%, and we'll reduce the opacity to around 66%. And from there, we'll fill up the lemon quickly and fast. And that's it. And to create that depth look, I want to add another tone color that's a bit darker, and that's it. So I create a new layer and go a little bit darker now, increasing the opacity. And this time I'll use the rough wash brush and focusing on the right side of the lemon because the light's coming from the left. As you can see, it's a bit darker, but as you move faster, it's going to be a little bit more smoother and washed look that's going to be showing just like this. We'll skip the rough watercolor stain, and then I'll show you the fast brush blender. And just like the name has it, it's about fast efficiency. So we want to combine the 2 layers that we just painted, increase the opacity. All we have to do is one swoop, and that's it. It's smooth lines all across. And that is one of the things I wanted to focus on. A lot of people are intimidated by art because it does consume a lot of time, and that's why I focused on making it very fast, efficient, simple steps. Now going back to the rough stain look that we have here, we're going to pick the rough watercolor stain brush and increase the opacity just to demonstrate here. As you can see, the edges are really hard, dark, but the transparency in the center is a bit more than any other brush that we have so far. So this will give a little bit more stain look, and the rough edge brush still has some pigment in the center, more than the stain look that we created before. But to even make it a bit more watercolor stain look with transparency, we'll reduce the opacity and just go around and let the brush do all the work here. So if you want to just create that watercolor stain look without adding too much pigment, this is the brush that you want to use. Now moving on to the flat brush, this is one of my favorite brushes to use. It's so versatile and fun to use, and just really focuses on the flow and having fun. And as you can see, it provides a flat brush. Best part is it's pressure sensitive, so you can put less pressure and it'll give that wash look, but you can even press harder and create the pigment to be a bit darker during the process of painting. So I'll pick a green tone to begin painting the leaves of the lemon here. And I'll reduce the size to around 17%, as you can see, I'm putting less pressure on the top of the leaf, but I'm going to put a bit more pressure in the center. And we could always increase the pigment colors to give a bit more depth here as well. Now the feather brush, it's great for feathering it out to give that a bit more wash look. For example, I'm going to create some shadows here using a blue tone color, reducing the opacity to around 30%, and just lightly putting some of the pigment down here where the shadows will be. And then we can use the feather brush to drag out the shadows to make it a bit more natural. It's really personal preference on how you want it to look like. And now we're going to move on using the highlight brush. And it's great to add some white tone colors. Sometimes you want to create that watercolor look. We can create this effect by picking a white tone color, actually going back to the layer that we painted. So we'll just combine everything that we painted before. And since the light's coming from the left top corner, I want to put some pressure. It will create a light highlight. But most importantly, it will create some hard edges that are pushing the pigments outwards, just like real watercolor stain here. Now focusing on the lifting brush, this is going to light up the area. We can pick the white tone color here and lightly putting pressure. Just like traditional art, when you want some of the pigment out using a paper towel to draw out the pigment, that's what we're doing, is to lighting it up. This is a really fast way to control the light coming from the left side without having to have multiple layers of colors here. And here's a quick style that I like to use for the shadows. So create a new layer at the bottom of the layers, and we're going to use the rough hard edge brush using a blue tone color and reducing the opacity here to around 30% and just creating shadows at the bottom. And this is great because it creates hard edges and very uneven textures. Now let's look at the embossing tool. So this will give small details, and we can pick pigments by using your fingers and then selecting the paint and having the size increase here just for demonstration reasons. And as you can see, zooming in here, it creates a bit more thicker pigments in the center, and it transcends to more of a transparent color on the outside of the edges. This is great for adding details. Just like watercolor, when you paint and using the embossing tool, it will create grooves and have the pigment go in, creating darker pigments in the center of the grooves. This is great if you wanted to add some more texture look inside the lemon or any of your paintings. Now we'll look at the wet splash brush. And this is great to have a bit more control when you're putting splash of water paint on top, just like this. It's pressure sensitive. When you have less pressure, it's going to show very faint, small, but if you put more pressure, it's going to create thicker, more darker pigments. Very random, just like how pigments when you splash watercolor paint on top of the paint. And as you can see, it's a bit more that wetter texture look. And I mentioned before, I'll show you what the postcards are and how to use them. Now, if you go to the layer postcard effect, you can turn it on by clicking off the box. And automatically, the dark wood texture will show up. This is just a fun, simple way to make things a bit more creative. And I love postcard canvases because they're ideal for short, manageable art sessions without allowing the artist to be intimidated to fill the entire page with your own art. And sometimes I don't really like the dark or the light effect of the Procreate background, so I created something more visually appealing. So you can turn that off and it will open up the marble texture as well. And then you can also use the light wood texture. And that's it for this tutorial. I'm super excited because I cannot wait to share with you guys some of the new techniques, drawings, and various stamps that will be included in the brushes that are exclusive for certain times. If you enjoy this, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel so you'll be notified when new tutorials are out. And if you want to continue painting, check out my other videos. See you there.